bringing the people behind our food to life.
You know, ever since I was a kid, I really loved the ocean. I was born near San Diego in Coronado, and when we moved away, I said, why are we leaving? Didn't make sense to me. Our farm is located under a wharf, and that is unusual. And you walk under there and you go, wow, I didn't know this was here. This is unusual. And so it's a great location for us because we can drive right up to the farm. We have electrical power. We have, you know, our office is right here, and we can pack and ship the abalone right from here. So it's very convenient. This is a pretty big wharf. This wharf's a quarter-mile long, so it sticks out in the deeper water. It's 30, 40 feet deep, and we get good water exchange here. We have good currents and wind-driven water and tides that flush it out. The wharf provides shade for the abalone. They like it dark. They prefer to be in the dark. You know, they feel safer. We're just getting some abalone up for the viewing pleasure. So this is one of our rearing units. This is a cage of abalone, and these are actually abalone that we've been growing now for probably 4 years or so to get to this size. Should be able to see some in here somewhere. Here's some here. So you can see these are pretty good sized. And this ab probably weighs about 1 pound live weight. And you can see this is the big fleshy foot that's eaten. It's a big muscle. So these are marine snails, just like your garden variety snails. They live on plant material, and in this case, seaweed. So your garden snails are eating the leaves on your plants in your garden, and these guys are just eating the leaves on the seaweed. So it's a natural food for them. When they're in the wild, they get a wide variety of seaweed. We can only really harvest giant kelp, is the only kind of seaweed we can really harvest in enough quantity. And you can see they like to grab onto something. They don't like to have their feet exposed like this. And the way they eat is this front part of the foot they can make sort of two lobes with it and reach out, trap a piece of seaweed in between them, and then pull it underneath their head, which is in the front here. You can see he's kind of drooping down, and he's got sort of a snail head there with the horn on each side, and the horn has a lensed eye on the end of it. You can see the gills there. These are what are called the respiratory pores. The stomach is back underneath the shell, between the shell and the foot on the rear side of the abalone there. You know, this is the central whorl of the shell. It grows in a spiral out like this. So we get them, this was the original shell size we got, and you can see that green color there. And to grow from there around to here, as I said, it's probably taken us 4 or 5 years to get it to this size. So there's a little Abalone Physiology 101. We have about 200 of these cages. We have to pull them up out of the water and feed them every week. We hose them out with seawater, check for any predators like crabs or starfish that might have gotten in there or come in on the kelp. We feed them a natural diet of fresh seaweed. We've been feeding them just kelp, but we're trying to expand their diet now to include red algae. We grow them in a natural environment. We grow them in habitats in the ocean. We're obviously very concerned about water quality. We need to have good water quality, so we're happy to be here in a national marine sanctuary and in a community that supports the marine environment. Shellfish farming in general is very sustainable, and that's because shellfish farming relies on local plant production as a feed source, as the exclusive feed source. And so rather than using a pelletized feed, for example, where you're going to have ingredients from all over the world, then you're using local plant production. And local plants are absorbing local nutrients from the water to grow, nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus and all the micronutrients, and those are being incorporated in the plant's tissues. when we feed the plants to the abalone, or when an oyster is filter feeding diatoms out of the water, they're consuming those nutrients and incorporating them in their tissues. And then when we harvest the shellfish, the nutrients are removed from the system, and it's a net removal of nutrients instead of a net addition of nutrients. And nutrients are something that are considered to be generally in excess in coastal marine environments in the United States because of runoff from lawns and everything, streams and rivers and everything else. I would like to see people understand and support aquaculture on our coasts and in our country. I think it's it's funny. Another guy who has an abalone farm up a little bit north of here was here this morning, and he looked at me and said, "You're about the same age as me, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, I was talking to all these other aquaculture guys, and we're all the same age." And I said, "You're right. In my graduate school, we had a great class of guys who were really into aquaculture, and it's not happening anymore. People aren't interested in it anymore because it's got some kind of negative cachet about it, and I don't know. I hope that people can revive the interest in it and make it something that's appreciated. I hope that people can think of buoys in the water that are growing seafood the same way they see the beauty in a plowed field when they drive by it, and understand that this is producing high quality food that they really like to eat.
Now they're ready to go.